is present. Public Works Director Albert John is not present. He's at a meeting on mosquito control in Lafayette. But he says everything is the same. There are no problems with the equipment, and it's all being handled the way it should with mosquito control. They're only allowed to spray a certain amount at certain times, so he's doing what they let him do. And next is City Engineer Tim Mayer.
Yes. Should be like that. Nothing. We need some juice to the city engineer.
Is yours one?
Should be on.
Brad's on.
Hello.
All right, this is working.
Your light came
All right, I'm good. Okay, thanks again, Jeff. My report, mostly updates. The first update will begin on page 2. Near the bottom of the page where you see contract A, if you flip over and you'll see in red and yellow highlight, the status is, although we have expected the contractor to be done with the punch list by now, it hasn't happened. And as a matter of fact, what I've written there is outdated again because the contractor showed up with 2 crews this afternoon near Pinewood and Sherwood. And the contractor has guaranteed now, and I think I can believe it because he's got the manpower equipped here, that he will address everything on the punch list within the next week or so. Brad and Katie were asking, well, does that mean we're going to be acting on this contract? No, we're not going to act on the contract until January. And the reason for that is I've come to you for 3 months anticipating that on the Wednesday of committees, between Wednesday committees and the monthly council meeting, it would all get done and you could act on it. And I told the contractor this time I'm not doing that until it's done. So the same update applies to contract A and contract B that's on that page 3. So no action. We'll present action for consideration at a later date, probably meeting the January meeting. Also gives you a lot of time to revisit the punch list and be sure that you're okay with what we believe is a finished product as far as the punch list is concerned. Any questions on contract A, contract B? If not, at the bottom of page 3, there's an item there at the H in the margin contracts for fiscal year 2023-24 material purchases. The current contracts you have for material purchases end at the end of February 29th. And so it's time for us to prepare advertising for bids and specifications to take bids in January so that you can award contracts for the 6-month period, March 1st, 24 through August 31st, 24. So I would ask that you consider adopting a resolution. And I sent to you, and Tessa may have already furnished you hard copy, a resolution authorizing the preparation of specs and advertising for bids to be received for fiscal year 23-24 materials contracts for the period March 1st, 2024 through August 31st, 2024. I would ask you to consider sending that to full council.
Also move. Have a motion.
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Moore as the motion and Ms. Woodbridge is the second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay, that'll cover on your agenda, copy of the agenda. That'll cover an action item on the agenda. Action items, Public Works Committee, action items number 1, adopt a resolution. Item number 2 under action items is covered on page 4 of my report. Before I get to that, I'll call your attention to the top of page 4, where you see the big J in the left margin, contract for fiscal year 23-24 labor and equipment, general construction work. I'll just remind you that we took bids and extended that contract, that's the EL Habits contract, through August 31st, 2024, so we don't need to do that again this time. If you look at item K on that page, contract for fiscal year 23-24 internal television inspection for storm drainage and sanitary sewer system. This is going to be an action item, but rather than take bids again, we took bids and received 3 quotes and actually awarded all 3 so that your street department and your wastewater department could call upon the lowest bidder, and if that lowest bidder couldn't get to the project, what needed to be done, if it was an emergency, then they could go on to the next lowest bidder. And if you look at what Tessa sent you, attached to the resolution that I'm proposing, is a tabulation of those bids. It looks like this. And if you look at that tabulation, you'll see that the prices for a typical work order for a day's worth of work, very, very close. 3,500 was the low for a typical day, based on those unit prices. The next bid was $35.55, it was $55 higher. The next one was $35.99, so about another $50 higher. So we felt with those bids, we were able to award all 3, and then if we had an emergency, we would go to that next low bidder and get that work done if it needed to be done like that. Now, what we've done is, seeing as how these prices were competitively bid, and they were very close together, we asked each of those contractors, would you be willing to extend the contract for another 6 months, rather than go through the expense of advertising for bids, preparing specs, coming back to you with another set. 2 of those contractors agreed to extend their bids, the other did not. It happens that it was the low bidder, GCU, that decided they weren't willing to extend it. So we think that the most prudent action that should be taken by council would be to extend the contracts with SIMS, SEMS, Inc., and Compliance and Enviro Systems, LLC, through August 31st, 2024. And that resolution would help us set that up by June.
So you need a motion to, in that order, SIMS and compliance.
Yeah, to adopt the resolution.
Okay,
Which says that.
I so move.
We have a motion by Ms. Sandy,
Second.
have a second by Mr. Woodbridge. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, I'll fast forward in my public works to page 7. And I'm looking at item 7, where you see the X in the left margin. That's the center ditch culvert at Eastern. Every 6 months, we send somebody into that box culvert, and we look at the condition of a sanitary sewer line running through the center of that box culvert. That sewer line runs down the median of Eastern Avenue. And the box culvert is the culvert that serves the center ditch between Hutchinson and Fifth Street.
That's the cooling?
That's
what we call the cooling?
the big center ditch is out there.
Cinder.
Yes. Now, just I have one said, and let you pass this around, you're going to see that we were able to show that the sewer line is clear of any snags, and that's what we hope and expect. Otherwise, if there was a construction there, it could lead to backup upstream, which means the east side of Eastern.
And this is what our cameras give us.
Yeah, we send a guy who is with the street department inside with a flat bottom through a camera. He took those pictures. And I'm trying to show you the orientation of the sewer line. What you're looking at there is the sanitary sewer line through the box. And that, again, that sanitary sewer line runs down the middle of the median of Eastern Avenue.
Yeah, it used to form a dam right there during 2016, remember, everything backed up.
Right time of year, these limbs will flow from the east side of Eastern Box, snag on that sewer line, and then that snag just leads to a mushrooming clog. So every 6 months, it's usually December and April, we send somebody in there to make sure it's not snag or.
And Cat went to tutor?
That's worked out pretty good. We don't
That's
need
on
to
town.
go when Greg Jones was there, he refused to do it early in December because of stinks. So this is the inactive season for stinks, so the guys get in there and get out. So that's just for your information. I'll call your attention to one more thing. On page 10, I report every month the status of our body pipeline really gauging station and modeling and forecasting, something we've been pursuing for about 6 years. Things seem to be stepping up. The pace is better and better. We were actually contacted by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, to send them information we had on high water marks in Crowley, like the 2016 flood and a few others that we have. So they're beginning to take this information to model the stream during different rainfall intensities. So I still don't think we're going to get anything done probably for a couple of years. It takes them that long to model based on the gauging station that's in place now. But this is moving along quickly. And just to remind you, once this is done, citizens in Crowley and the surrounding area will be able to get online, as you can do now for the gauging station that's in place for Mermentau. You'll be able to get online, and when there's a threat of a flood, the forecasting can tell you what the crest of the bayou would be 36, 48 hours ahead of time. So if you know how your elevation where you live is situated, you'll get an elevation in this forecasting, and you can start moving furniture upstairs or whatever you need to do. If it looks like that flood's going to be a problem.
What is it now, the leeway for crest? What is this?
Well, your brother Keith can probably tell you a lot about it. The 2016 flood, did it reach a back porch or something? Yeah. And Brad and Keith Corey called a day or two in advance because we knew this was coming. And of course, we had no way to really accurately predict it. The only information we had was Mermentau. And then we know the distance between Mermentau and Crowley, the bayou distance. And we know kind of roughly the slope. But we couldn't really forecast time, but we could probably translate the crest in Mermentau to the crest here. But again, it was a wild guess. And it was good to know what to expect, but that wasn't the kind of information that this would furnish to the citizens.
I know the flood of 2016 out on the LSU Rise Experiment Station on Stephanie, when it did crest, now we have fixed posts, T-posts, and all too, and it went on the top of it. For us to get out there to manage that property and the livestock, we had to kayak in 3 different areas, over the coulee on Roy and on Stephanie and on Olin Forest, and talk about snakes and rats. But when we got on the property, we kayaked all over the property. The bayou brought alligators and wildlife up. We had thousands, if not millions, of flatworms on the concrete. And we had fish. I could stand up and fish out of a stall. Big fish. So we want to know when it's coming earlier.
Yeah, this is a lot.
Now, are they cleaning that bayou? That is where Olin Forest, the bridges, are they dredging that or cleaning it?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, dredging is out of the question, environmental issues and where we put the dredge material. They have done some snagging and some of the finger channels that lead to the bayou pipe.
Because that makes its way around your voice fine. And,
As far as dredging, is it needed? Absolutely not.
is
It's so
it,
silted up through the years.
yeah,
Well, the conventional wisdom nowadays about drainage is not to make a stream like really flow faster, because it affects people downstream, it's to contain water upstream.
and we get it.
So we're not anywhere near that. Josh Neal tried it in Lafayette. I don't be the same with that, but, so I don't know. Crowley needs dredging, but Vermillion Parish, Cameron Parish don't want to see dredging unless it goes all the way to the top.
Have the Corps of Engineers come out and surveyed that to make a determination to, at all? Or is it a new request from the parish to do it?
The watershed issue and all of that,
Yeah.
works for years.
Watershed Initiative is gonna have gauges, and we're using that watershed initiative gauging to go further into the forecasting. That's the best way to make that stuff.
Okay, thanks.
All right, that's all I have for,
Questions for Sandy?
Yeah. Mr. Tim, on this picture, wouldn't you put like instead of getting trash and stuff in there, wouldn't you put like a fence or something in front of that to try to keep the sticks and,
Grant?
well, I mean, you probably get some leaves, go through the fence
yeah,
or something.
whatever would snag on the sewer line would really snag on the fence, and then the flow would really be obstructed, and probably a whole lot more.
Well, it would be easier to.
Yeah,
Outside.
I suppose, what's happened, we've been doing this for maybe 10 years, and the worst has happened is when the city worker goes inside to photograph it, he photographs it, then he releases the snags, and then he photographs it again to show that it's done. But
Okay.
the releasing of the snags during that process of just inspecting it has been enough to keep it running.
Just that.
Thanks.
There's nothing more to come before Public Works will close.
Thanks, Jeff. Now we'll move on to the utility committee agenda for today's meeting, Wednesday, December the 6th. We do have a quorum. The purpose of the meeting is to consider wastewater, superintendent's not here, any reports on that, or our city engineer, Tim Maynard.
Thanks, Sandy. My report begins on page 11. I have only one action item. I have a couple of updates that I want to point out to you that you may want to look at, and then get back if you have any questions. On page 12 of my report, at the bottom there, at the G letter in the margin, funding information for the UV system replacement project and ammonium nitrogen media replacement project. I'd like you to look on the next page, page 13. You'll see at the top, again, where the G is at the top of page 13, is information that I've been furnishing to you for quite a while, probably since you all took office about a year ago. And I'm breaking down what the UV system project is expected to cost, what the ammonium nitrogen media marsh pond and additional aeration project is expected to cost, how we're going to finance it with SRF loans and ARPA Tranche 1 funding, and what local funding might be for those projects. That's changing, and I've explained it here where you see the letter H. We're expecting, and I believe I brought this up in just a quick prediction last month. We expect that we're going to have more stringent discharge limitations in our new discharge permit. We applied for the discharge permit about a month ago, and it's going to take DEQ about 6 months to actually issue the permit. We're being told and warned really that ammonium nitrogen limits are going to change drastically. We're now bound to discharge wastewater that has ammonium nitrogen compound limited to 5 or 10 parts per million. And just think of 5 parts per million parts. That's, we're being told is going to be changed to possibly 1 to 2 parts per million. Almost no ammonium nitrogen. That changes everything that we were aiming for. We thought that we were going to just be able to refurbish the ammonium nitrogen treatment equipment against the requirement to meet 5 and 10. And now we're told possibly 1 or 2, and they're not going to tell us that it's going to be that. It could be less, it could be more, hopefully not less. So what we're doing, and that's what I show you at H, is we now have to kind of shift our focus away from spending the kind of money it's going to take to have a more efficient treatment system for ammonium nitrogen. We've actually applied, if you look at phase 2, where you see the H in the margin there under description of scope, ammonia reduction refurbished, we estimate now that alone is probably going to be upwards of $2 million. We've applied for block grant money to do that. The block grant money would probably cover about 90% of that. So, and what we've done is submit what's called a project severity application to the block grant office and expect an answer to that application as to whether we qualify for the full application. We wait for that to happen. Meanwhile, we've taken that project that we thought was going to be sufficient, and now that it's not, we've divided it into 5 phases. And those phases you see in the middle of page 13 are excavation of the 3 marshes, then the ammonia reduction refurbish under phase 2, replacement of existing duckweed with a cover that's going to be a synthetic cover. 4 is cover the 2 marshes and aeration, and then 5, the rock filter bypass. You can see all that adds up to 7.4 million almost. The reason we're putting in the phases is so that it can be affordable. We think those phases are going to have to be carried out over a period of 3, maybe 4 years. No action requested or needed at this time, but I wanted you to be aware of this change in direction that we have to take on spending the ARPA money on the UV system and the ammonium nitrogen media project.
So Tim, you don't need a motion
No,
on
I don't.
for this?
Not on that, I do have an action item.
Okay,
We have a speaker, you want to speak?
Yes.
on that.
Chris Hooters, the 5 steps you just mentioned, one was rock field, rock filter, okay, I couldn't understand, yeah. I was wondering if y'all was bringing in a bunch of rock over to the,
What we're actually looking at now is bypassing the rock filter. The rock filter over 25 years did a good job for 20, 25 years, but what's happened now is the duckweed over time clogs the rock filter, it breaks down, and then you have to do that, add more rock to get flow on top of the rock that's clogged, or do something else. The 5-step process here is going to allow us to actually abandon the rock because it's costing too much money to keep it running.
Is it because the duckweed is breaking down and congesting the rock filter? Or is it bad aeration?
No, it's the duckweed is getting out of the duckweed pond. It's finding its way out, probably in seeds as much as the florets themselves. It gets downstream of the rock filter. It's a healthy place for it to grow. It grows, it dies in the rock filter, and it comes out as total suspended solids, which is limited by the So we've tried to deal with it for the last 5 years, and now it appears that the right way to go is to just abandon it. Item 5 is bypass the rock filter. That's what that is.
so y'all gonna remove the rocks, or you just?
Probably not. I don't think it would cost a lot of money to remove it. Where would we bring it?
I don't know, and I guess my concern was, the last time y'all brought in the rock, y'all passed over that northern bridge, and that bridge is not capable of handling any kind of loads like that again.
Yeah, in fact, we didn't allow traffic on that bridge, we made it come from a different direction.
Yeah, 'cause I know I feel the damage of the bridge at that particular time.
On that bridge is
such bad shape it wasn't really possible to answer.
It was closed for several years. So that was my concern.
Stan, we have a question from Stan.
So if DEQ or whoever's phasing out this ammonia nitrate that we're using, I guess at some point, they're gonna get rid of it altogether. So would it be even worth fixing it up? Do we just find something else? That,
The problem we have is that we're trying to design something without, what's our target? All we know is that our target's gonna be a worse limitation, a more stringent limitation than we have now. It can't be worse than zero. I can't imagine that they would ever make any municipal wastewater facility eliminate a parameter like ammonium nitrogen completely. I don't think it's even possible.
okay.
But they are squeezing us and other public wastewater discharges up and around Bayou Plaquemine River. All this has more to do with what happens to Hermitage River. That Hermitage River is probably more important to DEQ and EPA setting these limitations than anything. So, you know, what's a travesty is that the water coming out of that sewer plant is so pure, and yet we're made to spend this money and do these things, and I have nothing against farming, I promise you, but farming has a far worse effect on the value than what any municipal wastewater treatment facility can do.
Fertilizers have that in it, washes into the streams.
Ammonia, nitrogen, fertilizer.
That's us being fertilizer.
Right.
We see it on our property all the time. That's what I took pictures of the water we got last time coming from the fields, headed to the bayou. So I'm understanding on the marsh pond, that is to be reworked. I do understand that the EPA and DEQ, the stringent requirements not going to get less over the next 5 years. It's going to get more requirements for us to meet those.
Yeah, your permits are good for 5 years. The current one is expiring in June of '24. The new one's going to begin in June of '24. So whatever we get next summer is going to be good for 5 years.
So we don't have a choice. We're compelled to rework these marsh ponds.
Right, for us to be prepared for the next permit. And let me mention this, because Chris brought up the rock filter we talked about what duckweed is doing. Is part of this improvement phasing is to take all duckweed out of the system completely and use artificial cover. All duckweed does is provide a surface blocking of the sun. So it prevents the proliferation of algae. Algae is really a problem. The duckweed was supposed to solve the algae problem. It did, but then it became a problem in and of itself. Algae will go downstream, clog the rock filter. Algae will be discharged as a TSS, total suspended solids, and you're limited. Similar concentrations, 10, 15 parts per million of TSS. And duckweed was the problem, but then if you don't have duckweed, you're not controlling the growth of algae. So what we plan to do, you see where we show a phase 3 replacement of existing duckweed with cover. We're going to remove all the duckweed, our duckweed cover, and cover it with an artificial, almost like a tarp.
I had seen some new applications like that. We've talked about that. And that the duckweed, after a while, because of the healthy algae dies, it becomes a problem. That sledge, is that it? And you can't recycle because you can't aerate anymore, my understanding. So we're going to rework our whole system to bring it up to standards through this process.
Phase 3 and 4, you can see, have to do with covering the 2 marshes in place of duckweed.
And then the rock filters, that'll just be kind of pushed to the side or left where it is.
Yeah, phase 5 is actually have a system of piping that goes around.
Just avert around.
Just go circumvent the rock filter, and the rock filter will have no function.
Okay, but that sounds good, and, next you need a motion for.
Yeah, I need to go to item, on page
Thanks,
14,
everybody.
bottom of page 14, the LCDG project. It is on your agenda as approved partial payment estimate number 15 for the rehabilitation of the sewage collection system project. Go to the top of page 16 is the progress report and the requested action for council to approve that. As of November 25th, the contract was 104% complete by time, 80% complete by cost. I'll explain that in a minute. Partial payment number 15 has a total value of work done through November 25th at $1,454,070.55. The amount of $72,703.53 is being held for labor material liens. Total amount due in partial payment 15 would be $11,653.65, and that's what I'd ask you to approve. Let me explain the discrepancy or disparity between contract time at 104% and completion by cost 80%. It's actually a good thing. We've actually wound up with fewer repairs to make than what we estimated. So we fixed, instead of, let's say, $1.5 million worth of repairs, we might have made $1.3 million, because that's all there was to repair. So in the so that's why we're only 80% complete by cost. The 104% is going to get to probably 120 or 130% next month, because we're in the part of the contract now where we're going to repair private leaks on private property, which is funded by the same grant. And the mayor's office is in the process now of sending out forms to property owners and residents who are renters of property that qualifies. All that needs to happen is that the resident, whether it's owner occupied or it's being rented to someone, that family has to be a low moderate income family. All income of that family has to come under the limitations of low moderate income defined by the LCDG office. So we're in the process of requesting of the owner to allow us to go and fix their lines. The owner has to agree to it. If the owner doesn't agree to it, then we can't do it under this program. But it can't be done unless the occupant is a low moderate income family. So we're on target to get that done within the next month, maybe the next month or two. So the time for completion looks out of whack, but it's only because we need to do our part of the project, our part of the process, so the contractor knows where to go to replace this.
And you have a list of, or the city has a list of the people that need to be contacted, and that's in progress right
We
now?
have approximately 150 addresses that the mayor is going to deliver these forms. The form for the owner to sign that allows us to do it, and a form for the occupant to confirm the low moderate income that he needs to be, at that level of income that qualifies that property to be done under this grant.
So once the permission is done in 1 month, the work will commence when?
Probably middle of January, and so we probably won't actually look at accepting the contract in February.
Okay, so at this time, you need a motion to?
Yes, if you would, approve partial payment estimate number 50 to NCMC in the amount of $11,653.65.
So moved.
Second.
Got a second from Alderman Dorey. All in favor, is there any discussion?
I have one question. Tim, the 150 addresses, is that the total number where leaks were found, or that's just for the low moderate income?
And that's the low moderate income properties. Yeah.
How many did we find total as far as we start to see?
That will be determined. Once we know we have permission to fix it, then we'll go back and smoke test it, find where the leak is occurring and fix it. It doesn't do much good to get permission doesn't do any good to smoke test it if we don't have permission to fix it.
Sure. And then other properties that don't qualify, or the property owners that don't qualify for the grant money, how are those properties used?
Not through this program.
But it will be a requirement of the.
Well, the city has in place ordinance that is seldom able to be followed, because if someone, first of all, we need a system of smoke testing year round, because leaks occur, as soon as you fix leaks here, they pop up there, and then when you fix those, they pop up here. So what the city of Crowley doesn't have, because the sewer operation can't afford it, is a way to smoke test the entire city every year, all 12 months. And then you'll find the leaks. Then there's a process to approach those owners to make them fix it themselves. And if they don't fix it, then there's a consequence. None of that can be put into effect unless you have a way to detect the leaks, and we don't have that. This grant allowed us to go in and smoke test and have money, a way to pay for it, so that the federal government pays for it, not the city, not private citizens.
One more question. Did you have any more?
No, that's it, thank you.
Is this spread throughout each ward, or is it isolated in any particular wards or across the ward?
In this grant program, the entire city is referred to as a target area.
Okay,
So low, moderate income families who occupy residence anywhere in the city can qualify.
okay, that's great. So any further discussion? If not, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
Last thing is an update, and that begins on page 16. That's your sewer user fee rate adjustment ordinance. I've presented that to you month after month. We've been waiting for the Louisiana Rural Water Association to conduct a study of the city of Crowley's sewer operation and to determine whether your current rates are sufficient to support your wastewater system. They've been on hold to do that since, we asked them to do this back in, I'm going to say June, May or June, and they've got a whole backlog. Well, we just talked to the LRW officials Friday. We have a meeting set up on December 14th. They're going to come to Crowley and begin their work on this study. The problem is that we've taken so long to get to the study that the basis of the study is usually things. So the basis of the study is ordinarily an official audit. Your most recent official audit was the audit for fiscal year 21-22. That's not really valid anymore for us to figure out what are the financial needs of the wastewater system today. So we're going to attempt to incorporate the audit that's being done now by Christy Dunn. She has completed an audit of her method of auditing the wastewater system, and we're going to try to combine the official audit information with the updated, which is not official. So we know where we're going to go with the whether we need to adjust the rates or not. Okay, we'll be coming back to the council with that probably February.
Okay, so we'll have a review of the user fees and whether it's up to the formula and the compliance of what's expected to be.
Yeah, I would suggest, and I have it in my report, that you look at ordinance number 1523 and ordinance that's supported, which is in section 10, I have it right there on page 15, section 10-325, section 10-36, A through B. That's where the process of the city requiring the rate study and requiring an adjustment depending on the result of the rate study.
Okay, that's great.
I apologize for my voice. No action, just, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Tim, really appreciate it, it's very informative. At this time, do we have any further discussion for the Utility Committee. Any further discussion? If there is none, then the Utility Committee recess. Now we'll hear from the Recreation Committee and ask Mr. Wilridge, Councilman, to lead that committee.
The Recreation Committee convened today. We had a quorum on the reports. Recreation Director Peter Kirsch.
Good afternoon. Our basketball practices for the youth have begun at the Rice High School building in the Martin Luther King Center, and games will start later this month. I'd also like to thank the street department for helping us cut down and trim up some trees and clean up around the Martin Luther King Center. That'll help the sun get to a lot of the areas where we've had trouble drying that property out, and we'll be able to keep it up in a better manner now. We don't have to wait 2 or 3 weeks for the property to dry out to cut grass. The mayor has taken bids to have all the pavilions at the Martin Luther King Center pressure washed, and that work will begin within the next week or two, weather permitting. And I'm currently, actually, I took the final bid today. We're going to get those pavilions repainted after they're pressure washed also. We're also going to be working on expanding the parking lot at the Martin Luther King Center. I'm going to try to explain this. If you're looking at the front of the building facing south, the new parking spot will be to the east part of the building. It'll kind of be offset, so like you're parking facing the main pavilion. And the reason for that is it's going to be ADA compliant, but it'll have a sidewalk that'll connect the main parking lot to the main pavilion. And that'll give wheelchair access and also not have to trudge through the mud or anything when it is wet. So that hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks, that work will start also. So, you have a question, Brian?
Yeah, will there be any provision to prohibit vehicles from running beyond the parking lot onto the grass and under the trees?
We're looking at putting in bollards along that area from the driveway up to the driveway that goes to the back. So from west to east
Yes.
on the south side of the driveway. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we are looking at something. Because that's a drainage issue.
Right.
Yes, sir. And then hopefully with the sidewalk now, they can park in the parking lot and they can, they don't, instead of having to drive through it. So, also last month, we attended the LRPA conference with the mayor and councilman in Ashland. That's the Louisiana Recreation and Parks Association conference, which was held in New Orleans. We came out here with a lot of information about pickleball courts and splash pads. And without them here tonight, I hate to go into detail, but we've got a lot of really good information that I think can help steer us, especially in the splash pad category, with where we go. The numbers were surprising. So I'll get into that a little bit later. And for some reason, I was blessed to come out there being elected to the board for my 4th straight term. So it was a productive conference. Getting back to Crowley, this past weekend we had our final tournament of this calendar year. We had over 40 teams that came into town. We had all the 13-year-old and 8-year-old boys associated with this tournament. This tournament is hosted by USSSA. It's the Toys for Tots tournament. It is their largest winter tournament that they put on, one of the largest fundraiser tournaments it's in the Gulf Coast region. We combined with 2 other facilities and we hosted over 200 teams between the 4 facilities in the region. So we had a lot of tournament traffic in Crowley last week. We did see teams in Crowley from Central Louisiana, North Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi, and of course Baton Rouge, Lake Charles, and Lafayette. Which leads me into restrooms with all the guests. The restroom work does continue. It is slow. The floors are going down as we speak, and the contractor had told us that was the biggest holdup to now. So we'll stay tuned on that. But I'm hoping by the end of this month that the new restrooms will be finished. While they're not done, we were allowed access to the new restrooms on the Hinston side of the park, which is where it was needed for the last 2 fall tournaments we had, so it did help. We got some usage out of it, just not completed restrooms. I did get stopped 3 times Sunday while I was out there by random people within the first 45 minutes of being there. And it was the restrooms. Thank you. It needed to be done. This was the final piece of the whole puzzle, and it definitely changed their outlook on Crowley and got them excited about what's to come in the spring. So, moving into baseball, softball, we'll be going into our 2nd year of hosting our own junior high baseball and softball league. That play will start in January and go through March. Last year, we had 16 teams that played in our league, and that consisted of 7th and 8th grade baseball and softball. This year, we've expanded into the 5th and 6th grade baseball with 6 more teams. We have 7 7th and 8th girls softball teams, and 14 7th and 8th grade boys baseball teams with a waiting list in that age group. It's a total of 27 teams, which is up from 16 teams from last year. Games will be played in January through March, like I said, and those games will go on Monday through Thursday nights, with Friday nights being reserved for our makeups, because Saturdays and Sundays are reserved. We are starting with an umpires clinic February 10th this year, and then from February 10th, it's every consecutive weekend with the exception of Easter weekend until July 27th. So that's it in a nutshell. Any questions?
Very good. For the pickleball courts, is that just gonna be at the Roby Show, sports complex? Or how about some of the parks within the woods?
So right now, I'm targeting Myers Park or A Street Park, depending on what generation you grew up in. Those tennis courts are we still have operable lights on one court there, and then we have another court that doesn't have lights. It still gets some tennis use, but not like Levy or the complex. And it looks like with preliminary measurements, we'll be able to lay out 6 courts on the existing slabs that are there from the tennis courts. So there's going to be some resurfacing. I think that would be the biggest hurdle to overcome. But I was looking at some equipment that will anchor down into the existing slabs instead of having to core drill the slabs and concrete work. And the painting, of course, will come with that. But the biggest expense, which is this concrete to pour the slab, which is already there, and the fencing, we already have most of. So I think we'll be able to repurpose those courts. And the Rice Festival building, we've had a really good response. We laid out 2 courts initially. We get citizens that come in literally from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, and then we'll have a second wave that comes in and plays from about 6 to about 8:30 every night. So much that it was requested, and we did. Now that youth basketball has started, we laid out a 3rd court on the small side of the Rice Festival building, and they utilize that court while we have the youth basketball practices going on. So we're getting some traffic on the floors.
I think that's excellent. I know we just recently removed some trees from the 8th Street Park, the cypress trees that had leaves. Did that damage any of the courts, or was it up under the courts any?
No, ma'am. The cypress trees don't really push through the concrete. It's not as bad as the live oaks. The live oaks are really what you have to worry about. The resurfacing that we're anticipating that would have to be done, and I'm waiting for someone to come out and evaluate that. Anything above a 1/2 inch elevation change is a safety hazard, as far as like ankles and things of that nature. So we kind of have to evaluate the whole court. In some instances, they can grind down and level it out and grinding the cracks. Some instances, they can come in and overlay like a self-leveling concrete to smooth it out. And then worst case scenario, they'll form up around the existing slab and pour like a 2-inch overlay over the whole thing to resurface it.
Just a point of interest on that park, at one time, there was a wading pond over there between, I think it's K, between 7th and 8th,
Okay,
on the north to west end, on the east side, across from, and there's a wading park, it was covered in, quite a number of years ago, but we had it there, because I grew up in that park. I think they closed it in, I don't know when, but it was there in 1964.
wow.
You know, there was a water element, it wasn't a splash pad, but it was a water element back in the day. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
The sidewalks in that park,
Mm-hmm.
which are missing, and have been missing for years, can we implement part of that into the project to get those sections?
That would fall more under a street department in the current administration. I am all for it because foot traffic and people using parks and facilities for intended purposes kind of drives away the unintended and unwanted things. So I think a smooth a smooth concrete sidewalk around the perimeter of that park with pickleball play and people walking would definitely be a great amenity.
We're asking you if we're going to do retrofitting for these.
If we gotta get the cement trucks there, we can order enough to pour in the new sidewalks, in my opinion. Yes,
Yeah, we had a few complaints about people tripping and falling because of no sidewalks, but since we're mentioning sidewalks, we also have sidewalk problems all over the city. I hope to address those. Thank you.
yes, ma'am. Any more questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Next, we have a city engineer, Mr. Mayor.
Mercifully, I have no.
Oh.
There was no action items, no discussion items, so we recess.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Next we'll go to zoning and annexation committee, agenda report, Alderman Sandra Reggie, chairperson.
Thank you, but I cannot continue, I don't have enough for a quorum, so pass me up.
Okay, we're gonna pass on that, there's no quorum. Next we'll go to public safety committee agenda, Brad Core, chairperson.
I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting. We have a quorum present with everyone present except Chuck Harris. Under reports, Chief of Police Troy Hebert is absent, however, he has provided everyone a copy of his report. For the month of November, there were 753 calls for service. On the citations, the traffic enforcement detail, 376 citations issued, traffic citations 85, criminal citations 18, for a total number of citations issued in the month of November, 479. Our Chief Louis Romero is absent. I don't have a report from him. City Inspector Tony Duhon provided an email to me, and I'll read his report. Animal control, 13 dogs taken in, 10 cats taken in, 5 cats spayed, and 7 neutered. There was 1 animal bite, 2 animal cruelty incidents, and 10 animal traps placed in the city. On the code enforcement, processed 24 unpalatable structure violations for public hearing, 2 unpermitted use of property, 2 tall grass. On the flood management, determined flood zones for 5 properties, and is preparing information for the annual audit. On the permits, there were 2 new commercial permits issued, 4 new residential permits, 14 electrical permits, 4 mechanical permits, 4 gas permits, 4 plumbing permits, 1 repair permit, 2 fence and 6 demo permits, located at 1507 West 7th Street, 1017 West 7th Street, 1419 North Avenue J, 822 West 2nd Street, 824 West 2nd Street, and 610 Mansfield. Under planning and zoning, it was a process to re-subdivide and determine zoning for 3 properties that had discussions on future interests of development, stormwater management, monthly inspections, and preparation of information for the annual audit. Contact us if further information is needed. Respectfully, Tony Dumont. Now we move on to action items. We have,
I have a question on that. On 1419, on the demo permits, it lists 1419 North Avenue J under demo. Should that be permit to refurbish? Because they did go get a permit to do Mr.
I would assume that that is correct because that's,
Charles Consulate.
yes, who spoke at the last
Right,
special meeting.
He went the next day and got the permit, so I just wanted to do a clarification for the record.
Okay, thank you. On action items, to consider the following new application for 2024 beer and liquor license, Mr. Gaddick's Pizza, located at 2218 North Parkson Avenue, for a 2024 Class A retail beer permit. This is a new application. According to Chief Abear, it has been approved by E.M. Clark. I also move to approve this new application for consideration by the full council.
Second.
A second from Ms. Doré. Any discussion? And Ms. Reggie abstains. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. The following are renewal applications for 2024 beer and liquor licenses, which include the Vanilla Bean, South Crowley Pantry, Hangover LLC, Rack Sports Bar and Daiquiris, Walgreen, El Dorado Mexican Restaurant, Crawfish Nest and Market, Just for Him, Crowley LLC, Sassy's Daiquiris, American Legion, Bella Post 506, and Family Dollar 21180. Of these, I would like to move to approve all of them, except at this time for the Hangover, which I will bring up separately. So therefore, I'm moving to approve all these for consideration by the full council to approve, except the Hangover LLC. Have a second by Mr. Doré. Discussion? Mr. Reggie will abstain. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And I want to mention that I did review the police reports for complaints that were provided by the police department. I think I copied everyone on the council, those reports. As of today, I received an additional report from basically the end of October to December 3rd. The review of the complaints was concerning regarding the Hangover LLC. They had approximately 25 complaints concerning the following violations: open container, disturbances, drug law violation, simple battery, fights, and battery. The typical number of complaints per year for establishments of this type, that being bars, has been typically less than 10. And with this one having over 20, right at 25, I feel that I want to defer this item, this application to the full council meeting and provide the applicant with an opportunity to come before the council to discuss what changes will be made to reduce the number of violations that have occurred. And so I would like to make a motion to defer this to full council for consideration.
Second.
A second by Mr. Doré. Discussion?
Will the chief be here next week?
Yes, he should be.
Okay, that's all I need.
Yes.
I just have a question. Have they been fined or in any way for infractions today?
I don't know, the complaints would be, what I said to you, so if a citation was issued to the operator, the owner, the manager, we'd have to get chief to look into that.
Okay.
My question was, the 25 complaints you just said, that was from October to December?
No, that would be for the year. What I
Okay.
mentioned, that the complaints that I received in November from Captain Mallett were dated January 1 through, I think, October 24th. And then today, she updated the list from basically October through December the 3rd. And they were, let's see, 1, 2, 7 additional calls for service at this location. Any further discussion?
If they're cited, I'm sorry, Sandy. If they're cited for infractions, is there a condition or provisional license until they become compliant?
No,
It's either or.
It's either or.
I have Peter.
Any further discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, any further discussion on this? And Mr. Reggie will abstain from the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. I was just provided with Chief Romero's report that he did provide, so we'll reflect it. On the hazardous conditions, there were 4 rescue and EMS calls, 30, false alarms, 5, fires, 7, good intent calls, 2, service calls, 3, for a total of 51 calls during the month of November. The average response time was 3 minutes and 14 seconds, and the total calls for the fire department through the year till today's date is 492 calls. Under discussion items, I asked for an update on the status of the 13 blighted properties that appeared on the August 14th, 2023 special meeting agenda. And the mayor has provided, I think, a summary of those properties. If I can find it. Oh. Can't see that. And I'll just give a brief update. The residence at 124 Jordan has been repaired, completed. The metal storage building at 124 Jordan has been demoed. 702 West 10th Street has been demoed. 719 North Avenue H has been demoed. 1226 North Avenue J was demoed. 1524 North Avenue H was demoed. 1542 North Avenue H was demoed. 514 East 10th Street, there was no permit. The green card was received and signed on July 25th, 2023 by Wayne Daly. 822 West 9th Street, no permit. The city did receive a letter back with it being returned to sender unclaimed. So that will take further action. 909 West 10th Street, no permit. The green card was received and signed on July 24th, 2023. 1004 West 10th Street, Mrs. Benning stated she talked to the mayor. He said she didn't need a permit, just doing cosmetic work. Not sure what that indicates. Nonetheless, 815 West 10th Street applied for repair permit in process of making the list of things needed to be repaired for plan review. Secretary Richard's office will determine the price of the permit so it can be purchased. And finally, 127 Jordan Street, an application for a demo permit has been applied for, however, the demolition is not. And that's from Tamika Bailey with City Hall. Any questions regarding these matters or any other discussion?
Just a clarification. The permit is for 6 months, correct?
Typically, yes.
Typically 6 months. Is that ordinance?
I think that has been the regular procedure, and I'm not sure if it's an ordinance or not.
And also the question, if we make a determination and the property owner disagrees, do they have a grace or period to ask for 5 days to appeal?
There is an appeal process, and the owner would have to, or the person who is requesting an appeal would have to bring it to the district court.
And that would be released?
No, that would be to the city court. District court would be a district judge.
District.
At that Peter Parish
Okay,
courthouse.
okay. If they appeal.
And that's who they would appeal to.
Okay, that's okay. Typically, what does a permit cost? Is it different cost for permits?
I think it's based on a percentage of the.
Value of the property?
No, the amount of what the permit is being requested for.
Okay. I just wanted some information. Thanks.
Sure. Any other discussion?
They have to bring a plan and they evaluate on that.
Yes.
What's the estimate, what it will cost.
Right, I think
They
it's,
will base your permit on that.
yes, I think that's one of the properties that Mr. Richard is looking into, is once he receives the plans, he will determine the cost of repairs, and then that will determine the amount of the permit cost.
So that could ultimately impact a property owner's ability to refurbish their property, say it's like $50,000 to $60,000, and their permit will be based on a percent accordingly.
All right. No further discussion, I will recess the Public Safety Committee.
Public buildings convened, we had a forum. On the report, there was none. On the action item, there was none. And on the discussion item, there was none. So there'll be no further business for public buildings, we recess.
Thank you, Alderman. Now we hear from the Insurance and Personnel Committee. We do have a quorum. There's no reports or action items, and so the committee will rest. Next, we have Community and Economic Development by Councilwoman Kate Shasson.
Thank you very much. The Community and Economic Development Committee will come to order. We do have a quorum present, and we do have a couple of reports. Crowley Main Street, due to predictions of bad weather for this Saturday, Christmas in Crowley has been rescheduled to next Friday, December 15th from 6 until 8 p.m. to accommodate the Mark Broussard concert at the Grand Opera House. The Christmas activities will start at City Hall and extend to the Wells Fargo building south of 2nd Street. Main Street staff are currently researching website options that could include a community calendar of activities and events going on in Crowley. For the Acadia Parish Chamber of Commerce, they have a couple of ribbon cuttings coming up. The collective group is in Branch, and their grand opening is December 6th at 11 a.m. Sammy and Byron have copies of all of this for you when you're done. The Fry development, the apartments that are over, north of the courthouse, grand opening will be December 7th, tomorrow at 11 a.m. Cake Bar and the Boutique Modish, December 12th at 2 p.m. The holiday business after hours is Thursday, December 14th at the Grand Opera House, 5 until 7 p.m. The Chamber is also co-hosting the Acadiana Solar Development Roundtable, January 5th, 8 a.m. until 3:45 p.m. She didn't give me a location. The Farmers Appreciation Dinner, January 18th, 5:30 at the Rice Festival Building. Prosper Acadia, the strategic planning for your small business, January 11th at the Main Street patio. The Crowley Garden Club recently planted greenery and 2 planters at the Crowley Fire Department, partnering with the firefighters who will keep them watered. The Historic District Committee, the John and Gotti Christmas concert held at St. Teresa's Church was very successful and well attended. There was no charge to attend, however, donations were accepted to help defray costs for church renovations. Reverend Claymont noted that they will be seeking assistance in replacing the street signs in the historical cultural district, and he also expressed appreciation to Emily and associates, including Brad, for restoring and erecting the church bell. There are no action items. Are there any discussion, anything that we need to discuss? Community and economic development. With that, the committee will recess.
Thank you, Kim. Next, we have revenue and finance agenda. I don't believe there's a forum. Anybody?
No, we don't have a forum.
Okay, so at this time, we'll motion. Oh, Chris, you have some? You sure? Okay, thank you. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved on behalf of each committee.
All righty. And we are closed. Have a great evening. Thanks for coming, people.
Merry Christmas, and I'll see y'all.
Okay, Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you're welcome.
We'll have the garden thing at 11:30, so that way we can do that and then go do